Assalamu alaikum and good evening. Viewers, Pakistan lost another important case on the Kishan Ganga dispute in the International Courts of Arbitration against India. The 43-page judgment of the International Courts of Arbitration shows clear signs of betrayal and disloyalty on the part of Islamabad, as even the court was surprised to note that Pakistan did not even submit the critically important data to secure its claim over its own waters. Water experts already warned Islamabad of New Delhi's evil designs against the Pakistani waters, but the ignorance and indifference of our own decision makers on this critical issue sees no end. Besides this failure, DGMOs of Pakistan and India held face-to-face talks for the first time in 14 years here at Wagah border and agreed to make their hotline contact more effective and result-oriented, but actually story of this meeting tells another tale. Did India agree with Pakistan on the burning issues like LOC ceasefire or not? In short, DGMO's meeting might be just a routine meeting, but some questions do arise here. Is the responsible for negligence over Kishan Ganga dispute? Who is the responsible behind this? Is the Water Commission the responsible faculty behind this case? What would be the future of Pakistan agriculture after losing its fourth river? Is Pakistan realizing Indian water war plans against itself? On the other hand, why Pakistan was on back step in DGMO's meeting? Today we will discuss all the aspects of Kishan Ganga dispute and the DGMO's meeting between the two countries. We will also try to touch base the Turkish Prime Minister visit and the face of Pakistan's relations with Turkey. As you know, viewers, that I have Mr. Zahid Hamid with me in my show. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Zahid Hamid. Before we start our discussion on some very important topics, as you would have seen, that we would like to know what happened in the Kishan Ganga dispute or Neelam Jhelum project that we had in Pakistan. The decision that we got from the international courts, what happened behind doors in bringing this decision? Before we start our discussion, we have a report put together so that our viewers can get updated with us on this Kishan Ganga issue, and then we will start our discussion.
Ganga Dam on Pakistan International Court of Arbitration has allowed India to build Kishan Ganga Dam in the occupied Kashmir. The country has been ordered to provide half of the dam's water to Pakistan. The court also ruled that India cannot take the water on a very low level in the dam. India's 330 megawatt Kishan Ganga hydroelectric power project would affect Pakistan 969 megawatt Neelam Jhelum hydroelectric project. Pakistan had objected on the design of the dam and the Indian government violation of Indus Water Treaty in 1960. Indian project would reduce energy generation of Pakistan hydroelectric project by 13% or 700 million units. The project would affect 30% production of Pakistan's 278 billion Neelam Jhelum powerhouse and cause shortage of 2,000 causes of water in Neelam Valley. With the construction of Kishan Ganga Dam, Pakistan is to brave loss of $145 million every year for the power lost in Neelam Jhelum project following massive reduction in water flows. Pakistan will face a loss of more than $544 million every year. More shocking development is that India's plan to construct 10 more hydropower projects upstream Waller Lake that would inflict more damage to Pakistan water interests. Pakistan received 2.4 million acre-feet of water every year if the average releases of water is last 30 years are kept in view. With diversion of water by India, Pakistan will be deprived of 45% of 2.45 MAF water, and in drought years, the country will be deprived of 90% of 2.4 MAF. The Neelam Jhelum hydropower project is to produce 5,178 million units of electricity annually. The diversion of water will negatively impact the flow of 58.4 cubic meter per second if India continues to undertake the Kishan Ganga hydropower project.
Yes, Mr. Zahid Hamid, as you saw our report on this Kishan Ganga Dam issue, I want to ask you a billion-dollar question. The decision from the International Courts of Arbitration, this decision, whose fault is it? Pakistan's or India?
You see, Pakistan government has betrayed the nation. Pakistan as a nation was kept in dark. Pakistani state has been actually auctioned in the International Court of Arbitration by a government which was too incompetent, too corrupt and too unserious to understand the magnanimity of the threat posed by the Indian water wars against Pakistan. To put it very simply, since 1947, since the two countries have come into existence, we have fought almost 5 major and smaller wars over Kashmir. Pakistan and India have fought. But none of the wars were decisive. But now, if Pakistan could pen the land of Kashmir, Pakistan could afford to pen the decision over the land of Kashmir, Pakistan will not be able to pen the decision over stealing of its water by India. The next war between Pakistan and India is going to be on water. And decisions like these that you are seeing now, decisions by the International Court of Arbitration, that they have handed over Pakistani rivers to India despite an existing treaty of 1960, or Indus Water Treaty, which allowed Pakistan to use those rivers.
Why did our own leaders, why did our own government did this to us?
You see, the betrayal has been going on for the last 15 years almost, ever since the time of Musharraf. Musharraf was too busy fighting the American war on terror in Afghanistan. And at that time, nobody within the government had any clue as to what India was doing in occupied Kashmir. They were building almost 60 dams, smaller and bigger ones. They were blocking our rivers, exploiting the American presence in Afghanistan, exploiting the stupidity and incompetence of the government in Islamabad at that time, which was too focused on peace with India under American pressure, too focused on fighting the American war in Afghanistan, that Indians were able to exploit the environment and opportunity, started building the dams then. And throughout the tenure of Musharraf, nobody took notice. Throughout the tenure of Zardari, the democracy, when it came the last 6 years, nobody took notice. And now, in the 6 months of Nawaz Sharif government has come, Pakistan had a very incompetent water commissioner. Pakistan has a water commissioner, a person responsible for overseeing Pakistan's water interest, a man called Jamaat Ali Shah, who was since the time of Musharraf, almost for 10 years he was Pakistan's water commissioner. And it is actually said within the patriotic circle that the man was compromised, because he did not raise any alarm or any issue, or did not let the nation know what India was doing, despite the fact that he was responsible for managing the Indus Water Treaty and managing our waters and rivers coming from India. But no alarm was raised by the Pakistan's Water Commission. No alarm was raised by the government. During the Zardari government, the whole country was ripped off, sold and auctioned. Lock, stock and barrel. So forget about the waters. Everything else was also sold out. So nobody raised an issue there as well. And India kept on stealing Pakistan's water by building more and more dams. And ultimately, when the case went up to the International Court of Arbitration, it was not represented from the Pakistani side. Pakistani nation only came to know of the judgment, not of the developments preceding that. Before that, who represented Pakistan, we don't know.
But then Zaid Hamid Saab, in this case, why Pakistani government claimed it as a victory? After the judgment came of the international courts, we saw that the Pakistani government claimed that it's the victory for Pakistan. And in fact, it's not the victory. We got defeated. So why this betrayal from the government to its own nation?
This is what I'm confused between insanity or betrayal. Either they are insane or are they betraying the nation, or both. The fact of the matter is that it was a Pakistani river. Indus Water Treaty clearly defined. At that time, we had already given 2 rivers to India. Already 2 rivers had been handed over to India, and the rest of the rivers were supposed to be used, their water was supposed to be used by Pakistan. And now India is, as you saw in the initial report, India is building dozens of dams in the occupied Kashmir in the valley, even from Indus to all the major rivers that are coming into Pakistan, affecting Pakistan's water supply, affecting Pakistan's hydropower production, and actually turning Pakistan into a barren wasteland. And Pakistan has become a water scarce country. We're actually a drought country And during the flood seasons, you have floods because India releases the gates, let the flow and let the extra water flow into the rivers, causing massive floods during the flood season. And then,
but then it's our mistake also that we are not building dams, we are not securing that water that they release during the flood seasons.
This is something that we have been very strongly saying that all along, that the Indian water strategy, the Indian water wars against Pakistan are multidimensional. On one axis, they do not allow within Pakistan to build dams. Like, in fact, if you notice, no major dam has been built in Pakistan after Tarbela and Mangla, and they were built in 60s. And the reason being is, ever since, whenever you talk about constructing a huge dam, particularly the Kalabagh Dam, all the parties that are resisting it are actually Indian assets. The political parties have very strong Indian connections. And this is the unfortunate aspect of Pakistani politics, that those political parties which are known to be traitors are actually part of the political process. They come into the assemblies, they create uproar, and they have worked on a deliberate strategy not to let Pakistan build dams. On the other hand, they never raise a whimper on Indian construction of dams on Pakistani rivers. So this is the strategy is built on two axes: not letting Pakistan have any major water storage and power generation capacity, and the other hand, build dams and steal Pakistani rivers. And the fact is, you see, India is not just doing this to Pakistan. Exactly the same strategy is being deployed against Bangladesh also. If you go to Bangladesh today, if you ask what is happening to all the major rivers that are flowing into Bangladesh, the Bangladeshi thinkers and intellectuals and their scientists are now crying hoarse that their waters are being stolen exactly in the same fashion as the Indians are stealing Pakistani waters.
Don't you think that before blaming the external factor, we should be blaming our internal factors also? Why is our government, why is our politicians letting outside people do this to us? Why aren't we building our own dams? Why didn't we represent our case in this Kishan Ganga on fair ground with credible people? Why foreign lawyers?
You see, this is the point. The insanity of our own government does not absolve Indians of their crimes. That's a separate crime, what they are doing. And as we said, whatever might be the reason, whether it's the Indian crime, whether you blame them, or you blame the incompetence and corruption and stupidity of the Pakistani government, who has let this crime take place, who have not built dams, who have not represented Pakistani case properly in the international forums, all of these put together are heading towards one direction, and that is ultimately there's going to be a massive bloody showdown between Pakistan and India over water. Pakistan can live without the land of Kashmir, but not without the waters.
But then the cause for this bloodshed would be our own government, who took this situation to this extreme.
I will totally hold responsible the government of Musharraf, the government of Zardari, and now the government of Nawaz Sharif. The three consecutive governments in the last 13 years who are in Pakistan are responsible for this absolute insane betrayal of this nation. And rubbing insult to the injury, the Minister for Water is actually celebrating it as a victory. I mean, how insane you can be, how stupid you can be. I mean, this is
they're keeping the nation in betrayal. Why is that? I would like to share with you the judgment of the ICA, and it's a 43-page judgment. In the para 93, the judgment itself is kind of surprised about the way our team performed. It says Pakistan has submitted no data on current or anticipated agricultural uses of water from Kishan Ganga Neelam River. So do we not have any agricultural usage of water from those rivers? Why did this happen?
You see, again, it's total incompetence, corruption and betrayal. As we said, the water commissioner for the man who was responsible for Pakistan, Water Commissioner Jamaat Ali Shah, he actually left the country fearing that there will be treason cases against him, but then guaranteed by his friends he came back, and he has still not been investigated. If he is put in a court of law, put on trial, you will find out. If he is made to speak, the man will speak that who was responsible, who asked him, who compromised him, who asked him to stay silent on not providing this data to the International Court of Arbitration, or not represent Pakistan, not to raise the alarm in the Pakistani media. Here the role of the media also comes into play. Then this Pakistani media, we've always been saying, is the most hostile media to the state. Nowhere in the world you will find media so hostile to the state than the Pakistani media. Major segments of Pakistani media are financed by the Indian assets, run by journalists which are hostile to Pakistan. The foreign funding into Pakistani media is actually crossing the limits of betrayal and treason. And that is why you find that despite one of the biggest betrayals of Pakistan in recent history, Pakistani media is totally silent on Kishan Ganga Dam issue. And
We will continue our discussion, Mr. Zahid Hamid. Right from here, viewers, stay with us. We will discuss more on this case at the Kishan Ganga Dam issue, the decision that has come out. We would like to go in detail of this decision as well to find out who betrayed who. Stay with us. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back, viewers. We are discussing on the Kishan Ganga Dam issue that why government is portraying its defeat and lack of performance in this case as its victory in front of its own nation. Why India would be able to generate 330 megawatt of power on the grounds of Pakistani water, and Pakistan's Neelam Jhelum project will lose up till 30% of power generation from its own waters. Why Pakistani government is betraying its own nation. Why isn't the Water Commission being held accountable on the result of this case? Why isn't the Indus Water Authority being held accountable as a result of this case defeat? Mr. Zahid Hamid, before going on the break, we were talking that the present Water Commission or the present Water Commissioner should be answering and should be held accountable for the failure and the defeat in this case. And I would like to share another statement from their judgment from the international courts in which they say themselves that Pakistan has not submitted even an estimate of the likely scope of such development, much less evidence upon which court could rely, so the court is unable to take account of such potential uses and declares minimum flow on basis of hydroelectric and environmental factors alone. So from our side, from our legal lawyer side, they never showed or proved the information in which they could have demanded that we need waters for our agricultural issues. Seeing that information, the international court has allowed the minimum flow of our own waters for ourselves and given the major part to India. How do you see this?
In any other country of the world, the Minister for Water and Power and the Commissioner for Water Resources would have been hanged over this incompetence, shameful incompetence and corruption and incompetence. The fact of the matter is that this government is in place for the last 6 months, and they were too busy surviving on daily basis, trying to take loans, serving terms from IMF, trying to run the economy or by begging, borrowing and stealing from the nation, applying taxes and trying to control the law and order. They had absolutely no clue what was happening behind their backs, particularly because they have inherited this corrupt, incompetent and decadent democracy from the last 6 years of Zardari's era. And they actually, in fact, I personally believe that even this Nawaz Sharif government had not even given a thought or had not even noticed the cases being heard in the International Court of Arbitration of such staggering magnitude. And when the results have come, they are themselves surprised because they were so incompetent. They had actually not noticed that something staggering, some massive backstab is taking place internationally. But now the time has come that now when you have a new Chief Justice also, because from the previous Chief Justice we just could not expect anything honorable. But now with the new Chief Justice, I would expect that he would take a notice of this and he would hold the Prime Minister, Minister for Water Resources and the Water Commissioner responsible and accountable. Because as we said, this is, if not deliberate, it's a betrayal through incompetence and corruption and something which cannot be forgiven. Our own government is totally responsible. I would blame India for stealing our waters, but this is something that we would know they would do. They are an enemy state. They have declared war on Pakistan. They would not let go of any opportunity to stab and hurt Pakistan. They are supporting insurgencies into Pakistan. They dismembered Pakistan in the past. So acts of war from India are acceptable. We know that. We know that they would do it. But the fact of the matter is,
but our own weaknesses, they are there too. Let me show you another of our very strong weakness from our legal team of experts of representing us in this water issue. The ICA, the International Court's decision says that after examining 2004 through 2006 actions and communications between Pakistan and India, India has a stronger claim to having coupled intent with action at the Kishan Ganga hydro project, then it's not India's fault, I should say. If India has strongly claimed it's a water claim than us, and we have shown weaknesses in claiming our own waters, and the court decides in their favor, then definitely what should we say? What should we do regarding our own legal team? Then there's a question mark on our own legal team.
You see, this is the point again that we have to see, because the nation, the country, even I do not know who represented Pakistan in that case. And
there were foreign lawyers. There were foreign lawyers.
And the foreign lawyers, and where did their loyalties, where did the loyalty exist? Were they paid heavily, more by the hostile state and the enemies to betray Pakistan? We don't know. And again, the fact of the matter is that everything between Pakistan and India, as far as water is concerned, have to be seen in context of the Indus Waters Treaty of 1960. And that treaty has sustained through the decades. And it is very clearly written. Why did the case go into the International Court of Arbitration at the first place? It should not have gone there. It's very clear between Pakistan and India. World Bank was a guarantor of that treaty, which says very clearly that these rivers would totally belong to Pakistan, and at that time 2 rivers were completely handed over to India. And then after that, what about the 40...
But Mr. Zahid Hamid, you mentioned about blaming Zardari's regime, and then the Musharraf regime, and then the Nawaz Sharif regime. But how about when the Indus Water Treaty was taken place in 1960? How about Ayub Khan? Don't you think that most of our water was handed over right there and then through him to India?
There is no doubt about that Indus Water Treaty was the original sin. It was a blunder done in the 60s. At that time, Pakistan was not a strong state, it was weak. Ayub Khan was a military ruler.